Every single day, millions of people start something, a business, a habit, a dream. But do you know why most of them fail? It's not because they lack talent, not because they lack resources. It's because they lack the ability to separate their plan from their mood. And today, I want to give you one of the darkest lessons I ever learned. Stick to the plan, not your mood. Your mood is the most deceptive thing in your life. It changes every hour, every day, every season. One moment, you feel unstoppable, ready to conquer the world. The next moment, you feel tired, doubtful, unmotivated, and you want to quit. If you allow your life to be directed by that shifting energy, you will never finish what you start. That is the cruel reality. I learned this the hard way. When I first started, I thought success was about being inspired all the time, about chasing the spark, the excitement, the rush of passion. But that rush, that wave of energy, never lasts. And if you only act when you feel that wave, you will drown the moment the tide goes out. Your mood lies to you. It whispers excuses in your ear. It tells you that today is not the right day, that you should wait for tomorrow, that you deserve to rest because you worked hard yesterday. It convinces you that your dream is less important than your comfort. But the truth is, every time you listen to that voice, you are giving away your future piece by piece. Think about it. How many times have you made a plan to get in shape, to build a business, to start writing, to learn a new skill? And in the beginning, you felt alive, unstoppable, like nothing could get in your way. That was your mood fueling you. But then a few days later, a few weeks later, the mood disappeared. And suddenly the very thing that excited you now feels like a burden. And you say to yourself, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I'll try something else. That is the trap. It's the reason most people never see their goals through to the end. When you are ruled by moods, your life becomes a cycle of starting and stopping, beginning and abandoning, creating and destroying. You never build momentum, you never stack your wins, and you never break past the barrier that separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. The difference between people who fail and people who succeed is not intelligence, it's not talent, it's not luck. It is the ability to move forward regardless of how they feel. Successful people know that moods are temporary, but plans are permanent. They understand that emotions are weather, and you don't change your journey because of a storm. You keep walking. You keep building. You keep moving forward until the sun shines again. At Apple, I didn't wake up every day full of energy and excitement. There were days I was exhausted. There were days I wanted to quit. There were days the world told me I was wrong. But here's the thing, it didn't matter how I felt, because the plan was already written. We didn't let moods decide the future of Apple. We let vision, strategy, and execution decide it. And that's why it worked. You see, your mood is fragile. It is influenced by sleep, by food, by people around you, by the smallest distractions. If you make your decisions based on something so unstable, you will live an unstable life. But when you commit to the plan, when you make the plan the anchor, then no matter how you feel, your path remains solid. That is where power comes from. Most people wait for motivation before they act. That is a mistake. Motivation is a visitor, it comes and goes. Discipline, however, is a resident. It lives inside you if you build it. And the first step in building discipline is divorcing yourself from your moods. The question is not, do I feel like doing this? The question is, did I plan to do this? And if the answer is yes, then you do it, regardless of how you feel. That is how champions are made. I want you to really think about this. How many opportunities have you lost because you listened to your mood instead of your plan? How many times have you looked back and realized that if you had just pushed through, if you had just ignored the voice of comfort, you would be further ahead today? That regret is heavy, and it is completely avoidable. The trap of mood is that it feels real in the moment. It feels like truth, but the reality is, it's just noise. It's just your brain trying to protect you from discomfort. The danger is not in the work. The danger is in believing the excuses your feelings create. The path to greatness is not paved with good moods. It is paved with commitment. It is paved with consistency. It is paved with showing up when you least feel like it, because that is the moment that separates you from everyone else. Anyone can move forward when they're inspired. Few keep moving when they are not. That is why so few become great. So understand this: your mood is a liar. Your mood is weak. Your mood is unstable. If you build your life on it, you will collapse every single time. But when you build your life on the strength of a plan, on the discipline of execution, then you become untouchable. You become unstoppable. You become the rare individual who finishes what they start, who reaches the destination no matter how stormy the journey becomes. Excitement is the easiest thing in the world to feel, and the easiest thing in the world to lose. When you start something new, it feels electrifying. You wake up energized. You can't stop thinking about it. Your mind is alive with ideas. That's excitement. And it's beautiful, but it's also dangerous. Because the truth is, excitement doesn't last. It fades. It disappears the moment the real work begins, the moment obstacles appear, the moment progress slows down. And that's where discipline steps in. Excitement might get you started, but discipline is what keeps you going. Excitement is like lighting a match in the dark. It burns bright, but it burns out fast. Discipline is the steady fire that warms you for years. Without discipline, you will always depend on the fragile rush of excitement. And when that rush is gone, so is your commitment. Most people live their lives in cycles of excitement. They start the gym because they're excited. They read about a new business idea and get excited. They pick up a new hobby because it excites them. And then, a few days later, the excitement is gone. They stop going to the gym. They abandon the business idea. They put down the hobby. Their lives are littered with half-built dreams and abandoned plans. And they tell themselves they failed because it wasn't the right time, or it wasn't the right idea, when in reality, they failed because they built their foundation on excitement instead of discipline. Discipline doesn't care how you feel. It doesn't care if you're motivated. It doesn't care if you're tired. Discipline says, you made a plan, you committed, you show up, period. That's the difference between winners and everyone else. Winners don't wait to feel ready. Winners don't wait to feel good. Winners move, no matter what. When I was building Apple, I wasn't excited every day. People imagine that visionaries wake up with endless passion, but that's a myth. There were days when the pressure felt unbearable. There were days when every door seemed closed. There were days when I didn't want to sit in another meeting, make another call, hear another no. But it didn't matter how I felt, because the plan was in place. The vision was clear. The work had to be done. And that's discipline. It's the act of saying, I choose my future over my mood. I choose progress over comfort. I choose the plan over the feeling. Excitement is loud, but discipline is silent. Excitement makes you feel like you're moving forward, but discipline is what actually moves you forward. Excitement is emotional. Discipline is mechanical. Excitement is the spark. Discipline is the engine. You can't drive a car on sparks alone. You need the engine. Here's the dark truth: discipline is boring. It's repetitive. It feels heavy. It doesn't give you a dopamine rush. It demands you to show up and do the work, even when there's no applause, no reward, no recognition. And most people can't handle that. They want the thrill, the rush, the instant feedback. But success doesn't reward excitement. Success rewards consistency. Think about the athletes who win championships. Do you think they're excited to train every single morning before sunrise? Do you think they wake up every day feeling motivated to push their bodies to the limit? No. They're human. They get tired. They get bored. They have bad days. But what separates them from the rest is discipline. They do it anyway. They show up when they don't want to. They execute when they don't feel like it. And that's why they win. Discipline is not glamorous. It's not Instagram worthy. Nobody claps for you when you're grinding in silence, when you're repeating the same practice, when you're doing the unexciting work. But later, when the results appear, when the world sees the success, they call you a genius. They think it was talent. They think it was luck. But deep down, you know it wasn't any of that. It was discipline. Excitement might give you speed at the beginning, but discipline gives you distance. Excitement might push you to take the first step, but discipline pushes you through the 1,000th step. Excitement is emotional fuel. Discipline is structural power. The world is full of people who started strong but quit halfway. The world is full of people who dreamed but never delivered. Why? Because they relied on excitement. The world is not built by people who started. The world is built by people who finished, and finishing is the reward of discipline. I want you to remember this every time you act only when you're excited. You are training your brain to depend on feelings. But every time you act when you're not excited, when you're tired, when you're bored, you are training your brain to depend on discipline. And once you build that muscle, once discipline becomes the engine that drives you, you become unstoppable, because excitement will come and go. But discipline will carry you through every storm, every doubt, every obstacle until you arrive where you said you would. Consistency is the most underestimated force in the world. Everyone celebrates passion. Everyone admires talent. Everyone talks about innovation. But very few people understand that none of those things matter if you can't show up again and again, day after day, without stopping. Consistency is not glamorous. It's not loud, but it is ruthless and it is powerful. It is the hidden ingredient behind every legacy you admire. When we built Apple, we weren't just chasing brilliance. We weren't just chasing inspiration. We were consistent. We showed up when we were broke, when people doubted us, when our prototypes failed, when critics laughed at us. The world didn't see the hundreds of nights we worked until dawn, the countless meetings that went nowhere, the endless redesigns. What the world saw was the breakthrough. What they didn't see was the consistency that made it possible. The truth is, consistency is boring. It means repeating the same action over and over, even when you don't see results, even when no one is applauding, even when the progress feels invisible. That's why most people give up. They want fireworks, but success is built brick by brick, and laying bricks is not exciting. It's repetitive. It's ordinary. It's quiet. But if you stay ruthless with it, if you keep laying those bricks, one day you'll look up and realize you've built a fortress. The problem with most people is they confuse intensity with consistency. They'll go all in for a week. They'll push hard for a month. They'll grind with passion when the mood is fresh. But the moment things slow down, the moment it feels repetitive, they stop. Intensity might win you the first mile, but consistency wins you the marathon. Intensity makes noise. Consistency makes history. Think about it. Every great company, every great athlete, every great artist, every great innovator you admire, their success was not an explosion of brilliance in a single moment. It was the accumulation of consistent action. Michael Jordan didn't become the greatest because of one game. Picasso didn't become Picasso because of one painting. Edison didn't invent the light bulb in one stroke of genius. It was consistency. Relentless, ruthless, disciplined consistency. And that's what makes it dark. Because consistency doesn't care how you feel. It doesn't give you immediate rewards. It doesn't comfort you. It demands you to show up in silence, with no recognition, no applause, no guarantee of success, and still do the work. That's why so few can handle it. They chase instant results, and when they don't see them, they quit. But those who endure, those who keep showing up despite the silence, despite the boredom, despite the setbacks, they become untouchable. Consistency is not just about persistence. It's about rhythm. It's about building momentum so strong that quitting feels unnatural. It's about locking yourself into a cycle of progress so deeply that even failure can't throw you off track. Because failure is inevitable, but inconsistency is optional. If you keep showing up, failure can never have the final word. When we designed the Macintosh, it wasn't one moment of genius. It was hundreds of small adjustments, revisions, and improvements made consistently over time. The world celebrated the launch, but the truth is, the product wasn't the miracle. The consistency was. The willingness to return to the table day after day, to refine, to rethink, to improve. That's where the real power lies. You see, ordinary people rely on bursts of energy. Extraordinary people rely on systems of consistency. Ordinary people stop when they get tired. Extraordinary people keep going until the task is done, and then they return tomorrow to do it again. Ordinary people look for results today. Extraordinary people understand that the reward belongs to the ones who can delay gratification the longest. The power of ruthless consistency is that it compounds. Every small action, repeated over time, multiplies. You may not see the growth today. You may not feel it tomorrow. But over months, over years, over decades, the compound effect of consistency creates outcomes so massive that they look like miracles to the outside world. People call it luck. They call it genius. But in reality, it was simply the refusal to break the rhythm. And here's the truth: consistency is not about intensity. It's about identity. It's about becoming the kind of person who does not negotiate with themselves, who does not break their word to themselves, who shows up whether they feel like it or not. Once consistency becomes part of your identity, success becomes inevitable. Because the work will always get done, no matter what storm comes, no matter what mood strikes, no matter how long it takes. The world does not reward the person who starts the most things. It rewards the person who finishes. And the only way to finish is to be consistent. Not sometimes, not when it feels good, not when the mood is right. Always, ruthlessly, relentlessly, day after day after day. That is the real power. That is what separates dreamers from doers, amateurs from masters, the forgotten from the remembered. Consistency is the law of greatness, and those who master it cannot be stopped. Comfort is the enemy of greatness. That's the dark truth most people don't want to face. Comfort feels safe. It feels warm. It feels like home. But comfort is a trap, a cage disguised as freedom. It keeps you still when you should be moving. It keeps you silent when you should be speaking. It keeps you average when you should be extraordinary. If you want to create something that lasts, you must detach yourself from comfort. Most people live their entire lives chasing comfort. They wake up every day asking themselves one question: what will make me feel good right now? And that single question destroys their potential. Because when comfort becomes the priority, progress becomes the sacrifice. Comfort tells you to sleep a little longer. Comfort tells you to skip the work today because tomorrow is another chance. Comfort tells you to take the easy path, to do just enough, to avoid the struggle. And people listen because comfort feels right. But what feels right in the moment often destroys you in the long run. I've seen it over and over again. Brilliant people, talented people, people with all the resources they could ever need, fail. Not because they lacked intelligence, not because they lacked opportunity, but because they chose comfort over discipline. They wanted success, but they didn't want the discomfort that comes with it. They wanted greatness, but they weren't willing to be stretched, challenged, broken, rebuilt. They wanted the reward without the sacrifice. And that doesn't exist. When we built Apple, nothing about it was comfortable. It was messy. It was chaotic. It was filled with setbacks, rejections, failures. There were nights I questioned everything, nights when quitting seemed easier, nights when the comfort of a normal life seemed tempting. But I knew that comfort was death to vision. If I gave in, if I chose ease over execution, the dream would end. And so I detached myself from the idea that comfort mattered. I trained myself to value progress over pleasure, growth over ease, vision over relaxation. That's the only way forward. Here's the dark lesson. You must kill your attachment to comfort if you want to rise. You must accept that discomfort is the price of admission for greatness. Growth does not happen in safety. Strength is not built in ease. Clarity is not found in comfort. Everything you want exists outside that circle of familiarity you've built for yourself. The problem is, most people never leave it. They never step into the unknown, never sit with pain, never walk into fear. And so they stay the same. Comfort is addictive. Once you taste it, it whispers to you. It convinces you that you're fine where you are, that the little you have is enough, that you don't need to risk, that you don't need to stretch. But deep down, you know the truth. You know comfort is killing your hunger, numbing your ambition, silencing the fire inside you. And that's why detaching from it is not just important, it's necessary. Detachment means choosing the harder road when the easier one is available. It means saying yes to the grind when your body screams no. It means forcing yourself into places where you feel like an amateur, a beginner, an outsider. It means being willing to look foolish, to fail in public, to be uncomfortable again and again, because that is where transformation lives. Discomfort is the forge where greatness is created. Look at history. Look at every innovator, every revolutionary, every game changer. They weren't comfortable. They weren't living easy lives. They walked into fire. They embraced the unknown. They detached from comfort because they knew it was poison to progress. You cannot serve two masters. You cannot serve comfort and serve greatness at the same time. One will always kill the other. And the more you chase comfort, the more greatness dies. But the more you chase growth, the more comfort fades away. That is the choice you face every single day. It's not about hating comfort. It's about refusing to worship it. It's about refusing to make it the deciding factor of your actions. If your plan says go, then you go. If your vision demands sacrifice, then you sacrifice. If your dream demands pain, then you endure it. Because the plan is non-negotiable. The vision is non-negotiable. The mission is non-negotiable. Comfort is the only thing that should be negotiable. And once you master this, once you detach from comfort completely, you unlock a level of power most people will never know. Because while they are waiting for the right moment, you are creating it. While they are choosing what feels good, you are choosing what builds greatness. While they are trapped in cycles of ease and regret, you are rising, building, achieving. Detach from comfort. Embrace discomfort. Not sometimes, not when it's convenient. Always. Because the world does not reward the comfortable. The world rewards the relentless. The world rewards the ones who chose the hard road again and again, until the hard road became their home. Here's the truth. Your mood is fragile, temporary, and unreliable. It lies to you. It shifts without warning. It disappears the moment things get difficult. And if you build your life on moods, you will crumble with them. Discipline is the antidote. Discipline is the choice to act regardless of how you feel. It is greater than excitement, greater than motivation, greater than the rush of passion. Excitement might get you started. but discipline is what keeps you alive in the fight. Consistency is the weapon. Ruthless, relentless consistency is what separates the ones who dream from the ones who deliver. It is showing up when it's boring, when it's heavy, when it's painful, and refusing to stop. Intensity wins headlines, but consistency builds legacies. And above all, you must detach from comfort. Comfort is the enemy of vision. Comfort kills hunger, kills ambition, kills dreams. If you want to rise, if you want to build something that lasts, you must learn to love the discomfort, to embrace the storm, to step willingly into the fire. So understand this. Greatness does not belong to the talented. It does not belong to the lucky. It does not belong to the ones who felt good every day. It belongs to the ones who stuck to the plan when their mood collapsed. It belongs to the ones who showed discipline when excitement vanished. It belongs to the ones who stayed consistent when the world doubted them. And it belongs to the ones who sacrificed comfort for the vision they refused to abandon. That is the darkest power lesson. That is the real path to mastery. Stick to the plan, not your mood. Because moods fade, comfort fades. But the plan, the discipline, the consistency, they will outlive you. They will write your legacy.